Yeah, it just seemed that pressing space just skip through all of my slides, 90% of which I'm not going to use.
They look nice.
Sophie sorted them out for me. She's brilliant. Okay, so we've got quite a few of you here and we are recording. So I've shared my screen. I don't know if my face is showing, but I'll try and look at the camera as much as possible. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our first Unconference on Prod MBA. So it's Unconference, not actually a conference. And just to go through our running order for this evening, so I will give you a short introduction and then we'll go through hero moments with zombies. Then it'll be Elaine then it'll be Elaine, then Mira, Andy G, Rob H, and Antonia. And I'll just finish off with a couple of minutes at the end. So just some expectations from today. You can come and go as you please. We've turned the notifications off. I won't see if you've disappeared for a glass of water, or if you don't want to hear me talk about zombies. That's absolutely fine. Normally in Unconference, you would only usually attend the talks that you want to see, because you'd have 7 or 8 different rooms running. But for simplicity's sake, we've got one track today. For speakers, try to keep to your time slots. We know how busy everyone is, and I know that you'll either have things to do this evening or work you should be catching up with. And just to keep us on time, I'll ping the Zoom chat at the 5-minute left and the 1-minute mark. And the only other expectation is to have fun. We're all friends of friends here, so don't worry about being perfectly polished. You don't need to be. You just need to enjoy yourself, because if you enjoy yourself, then you'll be sharing important information with everybody else. Okay, so straight into my talk. So it's the power of moments with zombies. So quite a while ago, with work living up north in Blackpool, as part of a day out, we arrived at a rundown country house with a bunch of semi-permanent buildings, almost like a Pontins type of thing, but with kind of trees overgrowing through the centre, and everything was filthy, and there were bits of rock and debris everywhere. It was a zombie survival day. So after our brief, we were each given a BB shotgun and a small number of rounds each, and our task was to investigate the grounds, solve clues, survive, and eventually escape. So after a few brief encounters, we'd become low on ammunition, meaning that our next meeting could very well be our last. And from the next room, one of our colleagues shouted that he found a cache of ammo and distributed it across the group. We finally had ammunition, having become so low. And your heart pumps all the way through this. We know they're not zombies. And we continued on, and from the darkness, a solid metal shutter raised quickly, and our group lead was almost snatched from us. He called to me, and in a flash, I'd been able to shoot one of the zombies and pull him out. And I'd saved him, and I'd saved all of us. So as the day came to a close, I'd spoke to the owner, and he explained to me how the business works and how they don't have to pay for Facebook ads. And what it came down to is that the team focuses on a single moment during the day, and that's a hero moment. And it's something that remains a memory of the day for each individual. And I wasn't even the only person that experienced a hero moment. Every single person in the group had a hero moment of their own, without exception. And it was something to talk about to other people, and it was something that was kind of etched into your mind. So when we think about how we take this outside of zombie survival world, like how does it work outside of zombies and shotguns? Well, about a year later, a really good friend of mine who sells secondhand car parts, wing mirrors, bonnets, tire hubs, etc. It's just as exciting as zombies, I assure you. He started sending out the little 10-pence bags of Haribo out with every single order, and he started to get really good feedback. People were surprised, people were excited. People were surprised to get it, and they were delighted to have a thought from a business that had thought about them to include something. So he got some good feedback, and then eventually, when he'd miss an occasional bag due to stock levels or just forgetting, some people actually complained. They complained over a 10-pence bag of Haribo. Definitely worth a mean tweet, right? So we'd met up and we'd figured out what's wrong. the Haribo were a great additional surprise, but after a while, nothing was a surprise. It became an expectation. So when that expectation wasn't met, it was a bad surprise to not get them. What we ended up doing is we switched to a program of occasionally including a full bag of Haribo, about 1 in every 15 bags, saving us 50p. And we went as far, once we'd established that this then became one of those good surprises, we went as far as rarely just sending a customer 10% of their order back, just refund 10% of the money that they've paid. So this doesn't need to be a voucher that comes before, although it could be. And it was just something that was kind of just a surprise that wasn't prompted by anything in particular. And nobody expected this something extra, either the Haribo or the money back, but they were delighted when they received it. If we look at some other non-zombies, non-spare car parts kind of companies, JetBlue increased their average number of journeys by letting some of their staff perform a funny in-flight demo. And they had actually shown that these gains wouldn't happen if every demo was funny, because every passenger would expect it on every flight. And when that expectation isn't met, it wouldn't be a surprise. And historically, I believe that Pret a Manger used to give a budget to each server to surprise an occasional customer with a free coffee, a piece of fruit, and their evidence and their kind of findings from this was that their NPS was increased. Looking at the time, I'd love to see how you might think that another business could kind of create a surprise. I was meant to go through the slides as I went through this. There was just one missing. But I'd love to hear any ideas, either something that applies to you or a business that you've interacted with, about how they've surprised you or delighted you or done something out of the ordinary that you hadn't expected. And if you don't have them here, I'd love to see them on Slack or send them across to me in an email. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Sorry, go on.
Thanks for sharing. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone, or morning, wherever you are. I think it's a very interesting story, and it's something to kind of take note of. And I think I just remembered with Pret. I went to shop. I went to buy coffee. That was years ago. Coffee, was it coffee or sandwich? And the lady was like, don't pay. I didn't get it. I was like, I need to pay. She was like, no, on us. And I was genuinely surprised and so happy that anytime anyone comes to visit me at work, I'll be like, let's go down there. You know, there's a lady down there. She's very nice. Let's just buy stuff there. And it's so true because of that simple gesture that really, you know, it really drew my attention and also drew my attention to the brand. So that's why I just wanted to kind of add.
And that was at Pret as well?
Yes.
I'm so glad to see that that wasn't just a tale that I'd badly researched on the internet. Thank you. Thank you for the validation, Celeste.
It's true.
Just following on from that, the JetBlue, I think it was Southwest Airlines in the US, they tracked how much these fun moments are, these moments of magic are. And I think they worked out that, like, for those people that experience like one of these, like a funny flight entertainment, or maybe the staff gave a present to the kids on the flight, that people booked on average half a flight more each year. So they really tied it to like a big increase in revenue, because, as Les said, customer loyalty was massively increased.
Incredible. That's really good, Sid. And I think that would come down to your creating this surprise that isn't there every single time. It'd be hard to manage a business if, especially at Pret, if every sandwich they were giving away was for free, right? Any other examples of kind of surprise and delight, something that's stuck in your mind?
I had one actually last Christmas here in Berlin, and it was kind of pre-Christmas market. There was a really nice part of northern Berlin, and every once in a while they had, either food wagons or beer carts there or whatever. And I just happened to be with my wife this particular time, and she had to go and pick up some shopping. And she was like, oh, like, I'll go in, you just go and grab a beer from there. I was like, well, great, this is cool. So I went over to the queue and queued up as a Brit, obviously. And when I went to pay for the beer, I was like, he just gave me the beer. And I was like, it was only like a third or something. And he was like, yeah, no, you just make a donation if you want to. And I was like, what? So they were literally there just giving away free beer. And if you wanted to make a donation, you could. I think I made I probably paid more for the beer than I should have done because I was so shocked. I gave him like €2, and yeah, actually I did pay more, but I was so blown away by the fact that they were just giving away free beer. And I ended up meeting this guy. His wife had actually gone in and done shopping and said the same thing. And we ended up talking, and I found out he was British here as well. And actually we just stood there drinking our beer, talking about how cool this experience was. And we are now friends that we stay in touch with. So it's kind of really interesting how something can kind of change that power of the moment. So yeah, cool.
That's awesome to hear. Wonderful. And just following up from all this as well, if you wanted any additional reading, something to enrich your mind a little bit more that you haven't seen. So the first thing would be the Kano model, which Sophie has delighted me by kind of introducing me to. But the book that the zombie the zombie experience owners got this idea from was from a book by Chip Heath and Dan Heath called The Power of Moments. And Rob is showing us in person, was that the hardback as well? But Rob's showing us The Power of Moments that comes from that. So I'll put that into the chat for you. And also pop that into there. And some incredible news. We're actually 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Great. It's because I get excited and talk fast. So I think it's about that time, as we're ahead of schedule, to see if we can give some people an extra couple of minutes. Elaine, would you like to share your screen?
Yes, I don't have fancy slides as you do, but let's look.
But they're elegant.
White and black. Oops. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Elaine Poon. This talk is about have confidence, but what is it? I've always struggled with confidence since I can remember, like since childhood. And it's only been like after university of 4 years and 10 years of work experience that I finally managed to say, I can say I have confidence. And throughout those times, you know, a lot of people, like whether it's, I don't know, finding a new job, finding challenging new tasks, presenting, or even going to house parties. I mean, I'm a teenager, like going to house parties or just parties was a huge thing, right? And a lot of close people would say, have confidence, Elaine. And if you Google, it's the same thing, have confidence. And, you know, but what is it? Like, it's not like a switch that you can switch on. And I wish it would be like a switch that you can switch on. And a lot of people are still struggling with it. And also on the internet, there's so much stuff, but so why are people still struggling? And why is it so difficult? And here, I would like to share some my perspective on this. So I mentioned the internet having a lot of great tips, and here are a few, just a random few on the first website. Do something new, remove negatives, cultivate positive mindset, and don't let people put you down. These are all great tips. I think there was a list of 51. This is just random 4. And I was like, oh my God, this is a huge list. But it would be too overwhelming. Like for someone who is already struggling, and I was definitely, especially if you are intimidated by things and you have this huge list, I was like, it's difficult. And I tried a few of them. It does work for temporary time, but I keep falling back into that, oh, I'm not good enough mindset, or how can I get confident? And it took me years. So I was thinking, if you're in this black hole struggle of I'm not good enough, and people tell you, have confidence, just do it. It's great, but how can you get out of it? So, and I was wondering, after now being out of it, why is it so hard, and how to shift mindset? So beliefs are like a religion. I think it's also a learned behavior. I mean, how often do we see people, we often see people from childhood saying, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. You copy, you learn. It's a learned behavior. It's very rare to see another person saying or acting differently. And when you are in that mindset, it's also very struggling to change. I mean, if a belief is like a religion, how can you change someone's religion? It is almost very difficult, and that's why it takes so much time to change that. Now, the fact that it's a learned behavior is, how can we unlearn it? How can we shift things? I think another thing of I mentioned that internet is a really good source, and when I first checked the first website, it says confidence being good at something, and it was shocking because confidence not being good at something, and no wonder a lot of people think about, or I thought about, I have to be good at this you have to be an expert at this to be confident, and that spirals down. I have to be as good as this person to be confident, and that goes to I have to be better than this person to be confident. But in the world, it's like there's always people better than you and worse than you in specific skills. And so I'm wondering, is there a way to hack our brain to think differently? As we all know, if you tell someone not believe in this or not to do something, it's very hard to do it. Like if you tell someone you are good enough, it's very hard to change someone's belief and values. And so I have this small exercise that I want to see people if you have similar tips and tools, and that is, what is actually the story that you are telling yourself? For example, one of the things I always have is, I'm slow, I'm not good enough. And I've been experimenting with a few people trying to figure out, why do you think you're slow? And so instead of changing their mindset, their beliefs, they are slow, I'm going to use a comparison. If you're driving very fast, like a Formula One or in a speed driving, what do you observe? It's very difficult. All you observe is trying to next turn, etc. But you won't be able to see the trees. You won't be able to see the animals. What is important? Success is not about meeting the finish line. Success is about what's important in your life to meet that. So, and a lot of success is about seeing things differently. So for example, here I've got, if you are driving slow, so I am slow, but this is an advantage because you see things clearer. You are slow, but that's why you have a much better foundation than others. So instead of forcing your mindset to change, I have to have confidence, to have like to be faster. I need to be fast. I need to be this. We can shift our mindset to think it's an advantage what you have. And so what I have here is, if you speed drive, you don't see your surroundings, so you won't be able to see the important things to succeed. And there are a lot of other things like, so one of my managers said, he was the CEO of a startup, and he said, I'm slow. And I was like, it was just shocking to me. And I was like, but he's so successful, and because he's slow, he really see the steps and be able to succeed in things. And there are a lot of other comparisons that I can think of that I can talk about, but it will take longer than 15 minutes. And so I would like to stop here and just understand how other people's experience are in this area. and I can't see my mouse to stop sharing.
Let's try to jump in before questions, just to say, I think having sort of worked with Elaine or sort of seen you over the last 6-8 weeks, I think, you know, I know quite a few people on this call have messaged me saying, like, I look at Elaine's assignments every week, like that's a source of inspiration. So I think if anyone should have confidence, I'd say it would be you actually from this cohort. Yeah, Andy.
I would, yeah, that's really, I think that's a really nice thing to say, actually. And I actually really loved your presentation. I think this is something that probably a lot of people tend to skip over because, you know, they don't want to actually own up to kind of not having confidence. And what's really interesting was that one of my good friends, he works at Google in New York, and he had, I don't know if you've heard of it, imposter syndrome. And actually, a lot of people actually suffer from imposter syndrome when they start companies like Google. And actually, also my previous company where I worked here in Berlin, that was also something that, you know, the team was so small, and we were, you know, renowned for only serving like the best products globally for a really small agency. Whenever we hired new people, this is also something that we were acutely aware that people might actually suffer from as well. So I think, yeah, it's all about just having confidence in yourself and the belief that you can, you know, you can actually make a difference. And I think a lot of people measure themselves with imposter syndrome because they're trying to measure themselves against everybody else that's there, when actually they can't even see or appreciate like their own skill set. And I think once they're able to do that, that's when they can actually find their groove and, you know, actually have their confidence that enables them to kind of make a really good dent in kind of making contributions. So yeah, really nice presentation.
Thank you, Rob. That exactly. It's one of the things is it's a skill set that I learned that it's like a muscle. One thing we often don't realize that everything is a skill, from laughing, crying, be able to express your love. It's a skill, and we never practice. I mean, how often do we practice confidence skill? I mean, I never had a class of how to have confidence. Let's practice 1 hour, have confidence. We always practice, do maths, do this homework, but we never practice have confidence. I think there should be homework, have confidence homework in school.
Exactly. And also as well, like we work in an environment where, you know, we're supposed to see failure as success as well. And I think this also, you know, this ties in or marries into it quite nicely as well, because I think most people see kind of, you know, you've got to try new things. And if you aren't successful in deploying something, then that's automatically deemed as, like I failed or I haven't done this. But actually, it just means that you're just trying something a little bit different, which is why, you know, you're maybe out of your comfort zone. But I think actually, instead of saying that you failed, you go, yeah, it didn't work out, but actually you now know what to do in order to not do that again. So you're arming yourself with like this more like comprehensive toolkit to be more confident about knowing what's going to work and what isn't going to work. So yeah, cool.
We had a really interesting chat with Antonio and I a few months ago about this topic on, you know, particularly in product management, particularly for women in product management, because it's you know, most people are not trained in this in some sort of official capacity. So, you know, I see a lot of people coming into the Prod MBA who feel some sort of imposter syndrome because there's so many things that are important in product management. You can't be good at everyone. So I think it's about, as Elaine said, like, what are your strengths and sort of what is your shape as a product manager? Like, what are the areas you're going to be really good in, and what are you happy to sort of not focus on, essentially, and not take those kinds of roles?
I think a really sort of easy hack when you start noticing that you're getting back to that mindset is saying, I am slow for now. I'm just thinking, you know, this is where I'm at today, but I am learning, I am improving, and then tomorrow I will be a little bit faster, and then I will also be a little bit more confident.
I really liked the reframing into positive as well. I could have really done with you kicking about 8 years ago, Elaine, because my hack was I used to go and teach social media and communications to the Ministry of Defence and UK government comms agencies, and my hack was separating my presenting self completely from my non-presenting self. And so what I would do is, as I walked into the room, my left foot went over the threshold. I held my breath over the threshold, and when I breathed out, I was Adam the presenter. And the difference is that what this did is it delayed me being an absolute nervous wreck. And then after a day of presenting, I've then just got to go and sit in a park for an hour, raining or whatever it might be, before I could go home. So thank you, Elaine. I could have done with it 8 years ago. I would have really appreciated it then.
Oh, thank you for the stories and thoughts. That's really great. It actually pops into mind. Maybe we need to do something like a confidence hackathon.
It is noted. Anybody, anything else to add? So we have 5 glorious minutes left. If you've something lovely to add, please do go ahead. If you don't, that's no problem. Have you any more slides, Elaine?
I kind of deleted them, make it simplified. Yeah, but I guess another thing that I can share is, now I lost the point, but yeah, I lost it, but that's okay. I'll come back.
I wanted to share something. You know, most times, just relating back to product management, most times when you leave a job as a freelancer or as a new person joining a role, you've done the interview, you got the role because they liked you and they feel like you smashed it during the interview. And you are in this office, you've asked of the stakeholder and everything, and you look at the role you're meant to carry out, it's actually different from what you're being told in the interview. And of course, it looks so enormous and gigantic and away from your level. And I think speaking to so many people in the same kind of, you know, industry, they also feel the same thing, that, oh my God, I don't think I can do this job. I don't even know what I'm doing. And it's okay to feel like that. It's okay to allow yourself to first think like that. Then, okay, what's the way forward? How can I then move this forward? Who can help me to actually perform better or understand better how to deliver this role? So I, for one, I applied for a role once, and the role was a BA role. And I said, yes, I'm happy to do that BA role, gather requirements. That's easy. I got to the role, and my manager was like, no, it's not a BA role. It's not even a project management role. Actually, it's not even a delivery role. It's everything. So you're going to manage this project from the beginning to the end. Bear in mind, a business analyst just gather requirements and write user story, end of, and read it to the software or the development team. So he said, you have to do all this. And I wondered, I was like, sorry, I can't do this. I'm here to do the BA role and that's all I want to do and go home. He was like, no, I'm going on holiday. If you try to do the role and you can't do it, so he used the word like swim. If you try to swim and you can't swim, you will drown. And if you drown, you know what's going to happen. You will die. Bye. I'm going to France for a week. I actually did not know what to do. Then I went back to strength mode. Okay, self-talk. Celeste, you can do it. You know you can. Even if you don't have a clue, you know you can. What's the first thing you need to do? Get who your stakeholders are. So I had a meeting with everybody so that they know who I was. And I had a meeting with everybody at once, individually, then at once. Then they were talking about this project and I thought, oh my God, what are they talking about? I spoke whatever I think I knew. And when he came back, he said, how was it? I said, sounds good. But the good thing he did was he held my hand. He actually helped me throughout the process. And at a point, whenever I tell him, please, can you drop on the call? He'll be like, Celeste, you've got it. You know how to do everything that is meant to be done. And when I look back, when I was in that role, I looked back, maybe I was in that role for like 13 months, but I think about maybe 9 months to the time, there are some senior managements that will come to me and sit and stay by me and say, Celeste, please, anything you need, just let me know. And my colleague will email me secretly and say, Celeste, what have you done to these guys? How come the senior management are coming to you and begging you and saying sorry and this, that, that? And I just laughed because that's not who I was 10 months before then. And you can grow your confidence to, you know, when you are starting a new role by just telling yourself you can, and also looking at opportunities of the people that can help you achieve it as well. So I know a lot of people go through this when they start a new role. So I just wanted to add that.
Wonderful. Elaine, any kind of final thoughts?
Picasso. Does everyone like Picasso? Random thought. Exactly. So a lot of people have everyone's opinions matters. We feel like your boss opinions matters. Well, it matters in terms of performance in your company, but does it really matter? Everyone has their own style. Everyone has their own opinion, and that's one thing I learned when I'm a junior. I feel that it's a set of expert ideal expectations, but now that I'm at senior level, there's not. It's actually different style, different company, different ways, as long as it works for the company, for yourself. And that's the leadership role. Leadership role is all about making sure that the team can perform as best as they can. So does everyone like Picasso? No. Do you think everyone's opinions matters? No, because every opinion is different. They have different background. Everyone is unique. So yeah, I like that. Like, not everyone likes Picasso.
Not everyone likes Picasso. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for being the first person and having the confidence to be the first student to kick off this Unconference night. I've got lots more of these coming up. You're going to regret it. And Mira, if you would like to share your screen if you have anything, but oh, of course you do. I've seen it. It's glorious.
I do. I think I have
more
more slides than sense, so I'll do my best to not go over.
I'll add an extra couple of minutes onto your time. We're doing pretty well. We're doing much better than I expected. I expected we'd be all over the show now, but I shall hand it over to Mira with words.
Oh, I think I might have to reboot. I'm sorry. Oh wait, no. You can see this. Everyone can see this.
Certainly can.
Okay, great. I was going to use my presenter notes, but I don't know if you'll be able to see them. So, okay. Sorry. Right, I'll just put my notes down here. Can you see my notes?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll just put them out of the way. In fact, I'll just put them into my second desktop. So yeah, so this session is obviously about why words matter and the impact of using words effectively. I am not a trained writer, and I certainly don't do anything right now that I then write and then have edited. It's not my role. But what I have noticed is a correlation between putting more and more time and effort into writing effectively and my role progressing as I've moved into more leadership positions. And I kind of put that down to providing more clarity and confidence in my writing, which I think is something that everybody needs to do no matter what they're kind of delivering. So before I kind of took into why we kind of gave you some tips and tricks, I want to think a little bit about the context behind why this is important. So we are in the business of clarity. Whether that's product or marketing or anything else, I believe that a good idea framed in bad words is essentially dead on arrival. And so every day you send out hundreds of words. What do they say? Writing is a skill, so why don't we work on it more? And to your point, Elaine, this is another thing that we need to practice, whether you're a writer or not, to deliver that clarity. And so I believe, bad writing is a missed opportunity, and good ideas written badly are bad ideas, but also think about the emotion. So when you're having a conversation that's kind of bad communication, how do you feel? You feel stupid, you feel confused, you feel frustrated. So bad writing will make your readers feel that way as well. So essentially how you're losing impact immediately. But good writing is a game changer, at the very least, it will save you time by offering clarity. But at its kind of biggest opportunity, you can actually bring about change in society through really strong writing and through really impactful words. And I think contextually now more than ever, one of the biggest commodities there are is our attention, and it's a limited resource. So whatever we're doing, we need to capture that attention and we need to retain it. So how can we do that with our words as the first point of contact we make with a lot of people? But also day to day, good words help in everyday work. So whether you're trying to better manage and motivate colleagues, or like I said, get stakeholders, investors on board and building those relationships with them, I've seen it really accelerate my progression. So words can matter outwardly facing and inwardly. So yeah, so that was kind of my preamble. And from this session, hopefully the learnings from the next 15 minutes will hopefully increase your writing skills and ability to deliver compelling copy by changing your approach to writing. Or better yet, this session will improve your writing. So how are we going to do that? So I've got a couple of tips that I think can help improve your writing. And then I want to talk a little bit about impact and what I mean by that. And then also just some tips and tricks that I use to continue practice this skill and try and get better with my copy. So let's tuck in tips to improve your writing. So I'm going to show you what I mean. And here's a good example. Can you see this opening up? Yeah, you can see it. Okay, great. So this is a freelance writer, copywriter, and what he's doing is actually trying to, it's in his interest to showcase the impact that you have, that he can deliver from words to get you to work with him. But I think it's a really good example to kind of pull out some interesting threads of what makes good copy. And he's got this great toggle here that you can go down to get to a more hard sell or a less hard sell. So, okay, opening up, you've got, hello, I'm Jo Coleman. I'm a freelance copywriter. I come up with words and concepts that help you win pitches and pick up awards. Great, I've been in the business for over 15 years. I adapt my style to suit every job and work with some of the best advertising agencies around. So let's start moving towards more hard sell and to more of that impact. What do we get? Okay, so now he starts to add in obviously a little bit of qualification, the awards he actually wins, but keep it going down a little bit further. Right, he's repositioned the start here, way more value-based. I help you win pitches, pick up awards, and create great brands. Straight in there so that you understand what you're getting out of that. If we go a little bit further, he's actually now pulled out this header, weapons grade copy for advertising design. I mean, I'm not going to get into gendered language today, but I think, what he has pulled out there is a really great title, and you know exactly what you're getting and it draws you in. He's also now no longer saying who can write, who can help you win pitches, as opposed to I come up with words and concepts, etc. Keep going down a little bit further. He's actually now just pulled out the 3 value points: win pitches, pick up awards, great brands, straight up at the top. And so there's a couple of things we can pull out, which I'll consolidate in the next slide. But really, if we go all the way down to the bottom, he's gone from something like, if you need freelance copywriter, you can phone me or not. I mean, obviously this is a marketing ploy, and he's nailed it, to be honest. You could try phoning me, it's up to you. And then it just goes all the way to, pretty hilariously, actually, this agency you're pitching against could book me. Starts to get a little bit hilarious. And he actually won a D&AD award for this. So it's a great example of marketing. But I think there's some really important threads that we can pull out of this. So thanks, Jo. But what worked? Well, like I said, I think he started to lead with important information first to kind of really capture people, and then was making the headers count. So rather than just being or not having a headers at all, made them really self-explanatory and value-based. He then started to land points one at a time. So win pitches, pick up awards, great brands, and use active verbs. I can help you, or I will help you. It's something that I think that's a really known approach, and he was doing that throughout. But the present tense can have much more impact. But equally, the past tense can be used for kind of narrative and telling a journey. So thinking about when you're using your tenses for what purpose. He also started to make it a bit conversational, written as you would say it, pick up awards. That's something that people want to do. And then painting this picture and giving that range of resonance. So I can help you come up with words and concepts. I can imagine people are probably sat at home or at their business going, we need to come up with some words and concepts, but to build a great brand. Huge goal, super aspirational, but he's kind of laddering up that picture of these words and concepts are going to give you a great brand. So really paint the picture. But that was a super heavy marketing approach. But what about Internally. So this is from a set of guidelines from an insurance company. And you've got the before and after there. So there's a flexible working policy for their company. So if you look at the left before, we've got flexible working. We'll do everything we can to look for opportunities to use flexible working. Although some business areas may not be able to offer a full range of flexible working practices due to business needs. Already that's a pretty long and unwieldy sentence. You know, we kind of get to the bottom. This policy offers you the right to make a request to work flexibly, and for it to be seriously considered, although it is not a guaranteed benefit. So the whole version on the left is pretty uninspiring and a little bit unclear. So to the right, to the after, we can see the same tropes have been pulled out. So we've now got a self-explanatory heading, moving away from this abstract idea of flexible working. You have the right to ask for flexible working. So you kind of know what you're getting, and it feels like a promise, and it's really kind of emotionally motivating. We understand life can be complicated, full stop. You'll have important things to do outside of work, full stop. Landing each point at a time. And then starting to paint that picture. You might need to start a bit later so you can do a school run, or work part-time so you can care for a loved one, building that resonance and selling it in, really. And then kind of making it conversational. So we can't guarantee it down here at the bottom. So, you know, the same things were used to sell someone services around copywriting, as well as internal flexible working policy to make people feel really comfortable about this policy and to actually have an impact or build a connection. So a couple of tricks and tips and tricks there that I think are always going to be relevant. But beyond tips and tricks, you know, how do you actually make an impact? So how do you use them in the right place to actually make that impact? So for me, I kind of was thinking about, okay, what is impact? And for me, it's impact equals emotional connection plus inspiring action. So blending things around understanding how you connect with that person, but then pushing them to inspire action. And this is just a great quote that I got, which is, the biggest antidote to churn is emotional connection to a brand. So really trying to drive home how important it is to do that. So the next slide. Oh, so the way that I do that is I ask myself these 5 questions. What is the goal? And are we delivering on that? So for Joe, it was call me, getting them to call me. Or for the flexible working policy, it was connect with them, make them feel supported. Are we telling them something they care about? So this is about standing out and bringing an interesting perspective. Oh, sorry, this is about the emotional connection. Are we doing so with clarity and confidence? So this one's really important to me because this is about the actual words that you choose. Is it clear enough that there's no confusion? And for me, anything that's sent out that offers a bit of confusion or a lack of clarity is a wasted time. So how can you make it really, really clear? So are we sending out, this is about differentiation. And, you know, externally, yeah, that's, you know, kind of being really sometimes provocative or having kind of outbeating your competitors. But internally, it can often be just about bringing a new perspective to the table and thinking about something differently that makes you stand out to your stakeholders. And are we staying true to us? So by us, I mean you or the brand. Are you just being consistent with who you are? Maybe you're really, really casual. Maybe you're really formal. Whatever it is that flow consistently happening through every touch point? So I thought, let's put this in practice. And I would love to get, I think if I do this, yeah, I can actually just maybe live edit this with everybody. And I'd love to just get some thoughts on how we might tackle this email. So this is an email that somebody actually just sent to me, and I haven't actually edited it, but I thought actually it could be better. And it's about us sending an email to people who know us but aren't clients of us, and trying to get them to demo our product. So I'll just kind of read through it quickly. Subject line: free 30-day trial and complimentary insights review for your team. The preview would be get more from your consumer insights. COVID-19 has led to incredible economic uncertainty. In fact, I'll just give you a minute to read it yourself. Read it yourself. Can you read it? Is it clear? Okay, great.
Certainly is.
Okay, so the context here is the year end's coming up. We've got to plan, use our tool that will help you. So how do we kind of actually achieve something out of this? And I put on the side the approach, which I mentioned, the questions we'd ask, and some of the tips that we brought up earlier. So, I mean, straight off the bat, does anybody have any thoughts on what is the goal? What is the goal here? What?
I don't understand what the tool and what insights it provides, like how happy the team are or how hard they're working.
Yeah, it's a good example of lack of jobs to be done, where it's very focused on like the things to do, like review suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, what is the value that's being promised?
Totally. And while the goal is here to click on the demo or start the trial, for me, let's not forget it's an email, so that the goal is actually open my email. So I mean, how would we reframe the subject here? You're totally right, like it doesn't feel like there's any kind of connection or care or standing out.
Definitely be removing, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I thought maybe it could be a call to action.
Call to action, yeah. So I think maybe like this could maybe become the preview, so you kind of know what you're getting, perhaps. Yeah, it could be something like whatever, kickstart your end of year planning or whatever it is that's been mentioned behind. Or it could be something like get ahead of your 2021 planning, right? Thinking about they're falling behind. What is it? This is happening right now. Everyone's planning. Let's capture them. And then maybe the preview is kind of like, well, what's the actual offering here? What are you getting, perhaps? Are there anything else in here that we might like kind of specifically change or pull out?
I think just the thing that stood out to me immediately is they're throwing this free 30-day trial at you, which, you know, it's sort of like they are, how do you describe it? Like backing themselves up for like lack of value, if that makes sense. It's like, it's free, by the way, but it's not, you know, why would you want to try it? What free trial is
Yeah,
this?
totally.
I really missed the point.
I also think this is a little bit unnecessary here, but I'm gonna get rid of that. But yeah, I totally agree. So what is the need? Like, I think we need to put that forward a little bit here. So is it about COVID-19 has led to incredible, also this sentence, COVID-19 has led to incredible economic uncertainty, and most agencies are experiencing budget cuts and spending freezes alongside the pressing need to make plans for the year ahead. Completely unclear, and nothing really kind of exciting about that. We could probably employ something here, the kind of like landing one point at a time. So the impacts of COVID-19 is being felt across the industry or something.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the thing that immediately stands out, coming back to the Prod MBA, is lack of specificity in the audience. They're clearly trying to like build an empathy bridge here by trying to address, you know, hey, we understand your problems, but they've in a way kneecapped themselves by going too generic and too broad, which people pick up on quite quickly.
Yeah,
so, you know,
exactly.
Very specific of being, you know, being felt across your insert industry, right, across the whatever it is, that like digital marketing industry, or even more specific.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because then we start talking about most agencies. So we have to say kind of marketing or advertising agency.
Yeah.
For industry. And then we could maybe say most agencies, or maybe like are being forced.
Well, even if you know, we know that agencies like yours to even direct.
Yeah. We know agencies like yours may be forced to cut budgets and freeze spend, for instance. And then I think we actually have to start putting the value into it. So what are we saying? So therefore, streamline maybe. What about down here? So I think all this could obviously get cut down. Is there any, what's the issue here?
Anyone else? I mean, it's again, just sort of hinting at that sort of jobs to be done. It's a common thing in product, right? People look at, ultimately, like, people don't care about the sort of like things they're doing. It's ultimately like, why, like, what is in it for me?
Yeah,
so
and I think
they hint at, sorry, go ahead. They hint at a few things, but they hint at things like, you know, consolidate your insights tech stack. Like, I get what that does, but just be very direct about what, you know, what is the outcome that you're giving me there? Like, is it revenue? Is it less stress? Is it going to make me look good for my boss? How do you go at that quite directly?
And also, I think this is a really good example of how insights tech stack, I'm not actually sure if that would resonate. It might be something we've all said internally, oh, let's review their insights tech stack. But if this is an agency who just wants great consumer insights, I don't know if they're all internally saying, oh, we need a new insights tech stack. They're just going, we need great consumer insights to inform our advertising. So I'd probably kind of edit that down as well. But yeah, I think the biggest thing to take away from this is for you if you need to. What a wasted set of words. It could be just this, you know, we could put up here, reduce your consumer spend by, and then, you know, maximizing or kind of streamlining your subscriptions, etc. So I think, you know, conscious of time, so I'll move forward, and I actually did a little bit of an edit here which I can share around. But I think the main thing is firstly, like, get what is the goal? We want to get them to open this by standing out, and we want them to actually feel like this is something of value or that they want it. Was it very clear? Not really. And was it very confident? It's kind of like, to support your planning, we could do this free 30-day trial, as Henry said. It just didn't feel like we were actually being very confident, or that we were an industry leader that you wanted to get behind. And then here, we weren't making anything count. We weren't pulling out relevant points that would actually be necessary. And so I was going to just leave it at that. And then I think I did actually just do a quick edit today. Yeah, get ahead of the 2021 planning panic is what I wrote. You know, that actually really resonating with these people. You're right, Henry, maybe we could check out the free 30-day trial, whatever that is. And then I went into the pressures of economic uncertainty are being felt across the industry. Many agencies are being forced to cut budgets and freeze spend alongside planning for the future. Start prepping for 2021 by consolidating your insights resources into one simple subscription. So whether this is the right point of the approach or not, we're leading with one thing. This is about streamlining your services. It's not about this and that and whatever. So I don't know if this is the right one or not, but we're focusing on one. To help you build a robust plan, that's the point around this. And then, like I said, I edited here, stretch your consumer insights spend further by accessing an unparalleled resource of insights, streamlining your subscriptions, and actually building the business case to unlock extra budget. Kick off your year and planning by starting your trial today. So being quite clear about it, kind of went from this long to this long, and just focusing on one point and giving that sort of point of resonance up here, 2021 planning panic, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely feeling. So, okay, let's move into, okay, how do we actually practice these skills all the time? Because it is a skill. And I think the main thing is everyone sort of says writing comes naturally. You're either a good writer or you're not. And I just think that's not true. Of course, some people are better than others, but it's practice. And the truth is, you know, some people have practiced more. So how do you do that? Well, number one, you have to make the time. If you're not confident at writing, or if I've hopefully convinced you on the value that it can bring and the impact it can have, you have to ring fence time. So I ring fence time before every big email that goes out or every kind of deck that I'm putting together. The words are not the last part that come, or they're not just kind of thrown in. It will undermine all the effort that you've done if you don't make the time to communicate them really, really clearly. So ring fence that time. And this is a really great quote, you know, good words are worth much and cost little. Don't get me wrong, there's a time cost there, but actually with very little expense, you can have much more impact than you realize. Secondly, find your mantra. So this has really helped me to have a mantra in place that you can use when you're just really stuck on your words or your copy, and kind of helping you to unlock what the challenge is or the problem is. So here's some examples. For instance, I believe in more in the scissors than the pencil. So for Truman Capote, it was just like really tight copy. George Orwell actually had 10, I think, or something, but never use a long word where a short one will do. Big and small sentences, well-placed commas. So he really cared about the pacing and the narrative. But, you know, these are literary examples, but you can also have ones for product and for marketing. So for me, it's so what and who cares? So that always reminds me of thinking, and it comes from a marketing perspective, but who cares? So that's really leaning on the emotional copy that we need. Planning panic, that was important to me because I wanted to connect with them. But so what? value-based, always being very clear on the value is. But for anyone else, it could be something like be human. So that's your brand, and you always want to speak like a human being, not say things like insight, stack review, or tech review, or things that don't mean anything. Or another one could be ladder up. So it would be aspirational, is actually another good one. But ladder up is a really great one because it's about creating the building blocks in your copy of moving from something really simple. So we help you fill out a form to buying your dream home. And if you can paint the picture of laddering up from something really simple to kind of really aspirational, and making sure that all of your copy does that, it will always remind you when you're really stuck on something and it's not working to go, hold on, let's go back to basics and ladder up. So find your mantra and something that will work for you and your brand, businessy or personal brand. And finally, be the reader. So this is really important to me. Be the reader, not the writer. You need to think how they think and talk how they talk. You might have, and I think this was really relevant for our MVOs and on the Prod MBA, and we would start to really try and slim that down and try and encapsulate words into short, sharp sentences that were really effectively written and really succinct and beautiful. But then you kind of step back and go, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. No one cares about this really short, sharp word where you've used one word instead of 4 because it's the right word to use. But actually, is that how they think? Is that how they talk? Will they resonate with that? Maybe it is about coming up with words and sentences, and not about words and concepts, and not about weapon grade copy. But people think about coming up with words and concepts. That's really resonating. So think like them and talk like them. And these things will hopefully kind of build your skills. And I think, also, you're not alone. There are resources available. So Hemingway Editor is super great to analyze your readability. And it actually gives you a score. So it's actually making you better. Word Counter is great, particularly around pulling out frequently repeated words. You kind of know where you're getting a little bit repetitive. And Grammarly, as I'm sure everyone knows, is a great plugin, particularly for grammar and spelling, which is huge for me. I don't know about you. And that's it, I think. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're okay.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. So Mira, the only tip that you were missing off there comes from one of my personal heroes, Kevin from the US office, which is why waste time when few word do trick.
Yeah, well, that sounds a bit Truman Capote or George Orwell, but it's true. It's true. Does anyone have any thoughts or anything? I don't know how to unshare. Oh, stop sharing.
Yep, let's time box 2 minutes if anybody else has got anything else to say on this. And we'll send out a follow-up email or Slack message. We'll send any slide decks, providing the presenters are happy to share them. But we'll send those out to people that aren't necessarily on the Slack as well.
Love the presentation. It was really nice.
Oh, awesome. I'm definitely going to look at those slides as well. It's a really nice tip.
Really, really good.
Yeah. I think also just tying back to that
Thank
point
you.
on the point of the MBO, I think it's such an important point. Like the more senior you get, the understanding that there are big implications of words. So how you phrase things like product vision, how you communicate a strategy to a team, like that one sentence, that maybe 5 or 6 words has very profound consequences. So, getting that right is really important. Making sure you get it right and prove that before, just blasting an email out, I think is really important. Any thoughts, Amira, on like how do you? Because I know, for example, like almost everyone here uses Slack as well. One challenge I always find: how do you sort of balance, conversational, being busy with also pausing to think through? I was, personally, I find that a challenge.
Yeah, it is really hard, but you obviously have to prioritize, and you kind of think, so I probably spend more time on external comms than internal comms, but so whatever you need to do, or I think about the audience. So when I'm kind of going into a big presentation and I'm preparing, not presentation, but into a meeting where I will be where I'm not presenting, I honestly probably ring fence half an hour more than I need to make sure that I'm figuring out the articulation of that well. Because it just has such an impact, and I've had that feedback before. If you can better communicate clearly, what you're doing is building confidence. Other people are building confidence in other people with you. because you've got that clear articulation. It might even be that you don't actually know what you're talking about, but they believe in you. And I think that's such an important part of kind of that first step. So I prioritize where I need to put my efforts, but I honestly have over time got comfortable with ring fencing more time than you would think to improve. And now it's second nature, and I think about things and I realize, oh, I'm not leading with value, and I edit it and I change it. And it's particularly, when you talk about Slack, it's particularly useful for when you're delivering instructions for people as well, or when you're delegating or managing people, giving constructive feedback. This was all so helpful for that as well. Leading with what's important, considering their approach, being empathetic. So it trickles down to everything.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's amazing. I totally agree with a lot of things and a lot of tips that I can take to my work. In terms of one thing I realized when I hear this presentation, your presentation, when you mentioned time to actually practice, right? One thing I learned is we all have to create meeting invites. And one thing that we already can start practicing that subject matter, right?
Yeah.
We have a great subject matter to make sure that people know what's the purpose of that meeting. And even just practicing that to make sure your meeting is so concise and that message is so that everyone's clear going to meeting, what the meeting's for, is a huge, I think that helps me a lot.
That's a great point. And it has such big implications because it means that the meeting stays focused as well. That's a really great point.
That's a great actionable point as well for everybody. It's like never ever, I'm sure I'm guilty of this sometimes, so don't call me out, anyone, but never ever set a meeting that's just called meeting. Right? Unless maybe you were very clear on the next steps on a previous call, then it's excusable, but it should be crystal clear about what is the agenda, what are we talking about. Biggest
have a meeting description, please. If you ever set a meeting with me, have a meeting description.
I think that could be a crucial piece of information to end on. Mira, thank you ever so much for this. Just in the kind of respect of kind of time that's carrying on at the moment, I would like us to move on to Andy, if you're there and ready. Just to warn you in advance, I've had a sausage sandwich and unicorn chips. So if you've got burgers to show us, you're not going to make me hungry.
We'll see. It may be a surprise. Right. That's a hard act to follow. I've got as much wisdom, nowhere near enough wisdom as Mira on that. But let's do this. So, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
This is the rogue presentation of the night, and yeah, like I said, we'll have far less value like Mira's, but it's more of a story, which I think might be quite funny. So I'll start with painting the picture. Imagine potential me a few years ago. You've gone into, you're a couple of years out of uni, you've just started your conventional consulting career and everything's looking good for you. You're going to go and like have a really fun time working really hard and just doing a classic career. But imagine you realized you actually hated that and you thought it was miserable and you were just doing it because everything in your life had kind of headed that way. And then imagine that with your friend, you think, why don't we be really rogue and follow our passion for burgers and open a burger truck and just like leave all this corporate bullshit behind? And well, how would that go? So that was the idea I was having with my friend a couple of years ago. To paint the picture more, I told my mom, she cried for about 2 weeks. I told my colleagues, they didn't cry, but they ridiculed me. I remember one senior manager was like, you're always gonna have to worry about the food bill wherever you go in the future because you're gonna be poor. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so yeah, that all weighed on me. But I thought it was time to do something different. This is me wondering what I wanted in my career.
You have to post the link, Andy. The audio won't come across.
Oh no.
I've seen it, so I find it funny.
Okay, that is notebook cover. But anyway, that's the whole point of that was, what do you want? What do you want from your career? Anyway, that was me. So a couple of years ago, I do the crazy thing. I leave my job, stable job, and I open a burger truck with my friend, this guy here. I'm the guy on the left. We spent about 6 months behind the scenes getting this truck, pulling it apart, redoing it up, starting and launching an Instagram, trying to build a following. It was all kind of happening really quickly. And I guess to take from what Mira was saying, our mantra was to have fun and be really silly and just like make a brand about burgers, not being like really blokey and like, oh, black burgers. Like we wanted it to be just loads of fun and just really like open to anyone. And most of all, I guess, relevant to this course is we believed in our product. We've been doing 52 burgers in 52 weeks around London. So we had an idea of what were the best burgers in the city. And we really believed in a product that would be amazing. And we had a vision for our Instagram and we just kind of believed in ourselves and took that leap of faith. So this is us getting set up. And so we launched about 2 years ago and it was, man, we picked the worst day to launch. It was like the London heat wave of 2018. Anyone who was living there, it was horrendous. It doesn't usually get hotter than like 25 here, but that day it was 35 degrees. And as you can see, we're in like a tin can and the grill was raging and it was honestly so hot. We didn't have any electricity because we were parked outside in the street. And so it was a bit of a nightmare, but everyone really loved it. Our neighbors hated us. They reported us to the police because we were hawkering in the street, but who cares? It was really cool and had a good time. So that was our launch. And then we were thinking, right, what are our expectations here? We're launching our Instagram. We've got a few hundred followers, you know, we're a big deal. We've got a really cool product. I reckon as soon as we open the hatch in a market, these are the scenes we're going to have, you know, just pumping out the sales. Everyone's going to be queuing, happy days. Sad reality was this was taken a year after that. The truth is it was more like this. So we launched at a market and I think for the first week, our only customers were our family, which is basically our parents. And they were very supportive, but it was kind of depressing because we weren't making any sales. And you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? Why have we just thrown so much money at this? And why am I like taking time out of like a good career to do this? But stick to the plan, believe in what you're doing, and hopefully better things come. At this point, oh, I don't have any audio, do I? Oh, it's a shame. It's another really good video, but I'll show you these later.
You can post the link on the chat if everyone wants to watch. They're really funny. They're really funny.
Does it? So you can't hear a thing? No, it's coming through the headphones. That's why. Hang on. Let me try this. Does that work?
Done and the ambitions. You do seriously surprise me. I was hoping you'd see that. I mean, I give it all I got. Give you 110. You surprised me. You are. Thank you. I was expecting more.
So that was our take on Gordon Ramsay, but that's how we felt. We just felt like idiots. We were like so pumped up, thought we'd have loads of people, and it was absolutely dead. How do I go? How do I next slide? Yeah. So then we started getting into the swing of things. We joined some markets. We did some private events. But you know, this is still early days, and we found that this is really where you learn your craft. We were going to the lunch markets and just selling barely any burgers at all, but we were just meeting customers and building a customer base and kind of iterating our product a little bit, trying out strategies with coupons and discounts or whatever. And it was just a really fun time, to be honest. We did an event at Pinewood Studios where we were catering for the Star Wars team. So random. We just got this event to us one day, but it was really cool. And then all of a sudden, about a year later, things start going a bit better. We did an event here at the London South Bank, which is a huge bustling market in central London, if anyone knows. And you know, this was the kind of like culmination of, I think, 9 months at that time of just like absolute grind and low return on investment. This is when we actually first started making profit, and it was so cool. We had so many people, and we started getting this amazing feedback, just everyone saying we were one of the best traders on that. There was 20 traders here. And it was just, we just became this burger pumping machine. And that summer we ended up doing a few other festivals. We did Latitude and Festival in the UK. And what you'll realize is festivals here are just absolute operations. They're just, well, anywhere. 5-6 days of just endless burgers, and you get no sleep. You're so stressed. There's so much risk in it. You have to put up £15,000 to get into these things up front, and you are praying that you make that back, and it could be lost if it's raining, or you know, there's a whole manner of things. So it's extremely stressful. But for us, this was like really seeing the product come to life and actually make some money, which hadn't been done up until that point. From the festivals, we started doing some we got some sites, and these are a few pictures from these sites. We got our first one in Lewisham in the top left, and then more recently in Shoreditch in the bottom right, bottom two. And we managed to get a team. We got people working for us, and it was just so cool. Honestly, the best thing about working in a product like food is directly speaking to your customers when you're serving them. You get them coming up and afterwards and saying, "That was the best burger I've ever had. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing better food to this area," whatever. Like, it's just, I think that's the best feeling of the whole thing. And I think if you do any business that you do, I don't think it's necessarily egotistical, but it's like, it's so rewarding hearing that feedback, because you put in so much hard effort and work to get to that point. And especially in this gig, so much cleaning, so much grease, smelling like shit all the time, never having time to see your friends, girlfriend complaining every weekend that you haven't seen her because you work Saturday and Sunday fairly, and just absolute slavery to a burger. I guess our experience culminated about a year and a bit ago, where we were asked to compete at National Burger Day, which was this event where they bring out the best burger traders in London to compete against. If you're in the UK, that's like, we were competing against like Honest Burger, like huge names. And on the night, this was one of our queues. It was horrendously busy. That's me on the right, dying in the sweat can. Like, there's fat, there's like butter vapor. It's just absolutely disgusting in there. But it was awesome. We got the best feedback we'd ever had. We basically won. And it was just crazy to think that a year before this point, we just started, and we were at this event looking at all these other people being like, we could never do this. This is so cool. And I guess that goes back to the imposter syndrome thing, where it's like, you don't think you can, but then you put your head down, focus on what you're good at, and within a small time frame, which for us was a year, we managed to be competing against all these people we aspired and respected. So yeah, touching on those points made rightly before, it's intimidating, but you get a lot of reward out of it. Just to wrap up, yeah, this experience was amazing. It was really hard work, but I would say that if you ever have that feeling that you want to take a leap of faith and try something risky, be it a food venture or any venture, just give yourself a period of time. Give yourself, say, a year. That's what we did at the start. And we're like, you know what? I don't care if this goes absolutely south. I think we're going to get a lot out of this. I think as a person, I'm going to develop in business skills. Obviously, you're going to develop a lot. You're going to meet some fantastic people and be really inspired, and ultimately just become more interesting, I guess. Not going to be at a dinner party saying, "Hi, I'm a consultant. Do you want to talk to me about my job?" Or be like, "Hey, look, I've got a burger truck. Hope you like burgers. Let's talk about it." Something like that. So yeah, I think view it as an experience, doing something rogue that will make you richer. Definitely not richer in terms of money. I am so broke. I'm so poor. All my savings are gone. But it's made me much richer as a person. So that's good. Also, randomly, Jamie Dornan, the guy from 50 Shades of Grey, once tried our burger and still emails me to try and invest and take it to a restaurant concept. Really random. That guy, that really fit guy, wants to take this to a restaurant. Rogue. Anyway, thanks, guys. I welcome all questions.
Let's try and
Very
keep
fucking
questions
hungry right now.
to.
This looks so
Yeah,
good.
thanks for the burger, by the way. Thank you ever so much. You can send us some in the post. Let's try and keep it till 23 minutes past, and then I shall Jeremy Paxman you before we move on to Rob. So, any questions for Andy?
I think I've followed Andy's journey with friends from before, and it's been awesome to actually see the sort of progression. And I think one thing that, like, I think I touched upon this a year or two ago. But I think one thing that's so important with not only if you're starting a business, but like any new thing that you're launching is you will go through. Seth Godin calls this the dip. Right? So there's all this excitement when you build up. You know, it's really fun to think of like the MVP and like, you know, what are we going to build? And it's going to be awesome. And like, just wait until there's a million people queuing up. It will almost never happen. Like, you will very rarely get it right first time. Same thing with the minimal viable offer. So I think just preparing yourself, and I think that's why, you know, we deliberately tried to throw you in at the deep end a lot with the Prod MBA, because there is a huge amount of learning from being in the dip and coming out the other side, right? And really just persisting. And as Andy said, like, iterate, even if it's a burger business, like, there are iterations, there is a lean process there that's really, really powerful and will be with you for life. So I think anything where you're getting that experience of going into the dip, coming out the other side, it's just going to make you so resilient and therefore more effective, because 95% of people will give up on whatever they're doing. Like, they're going to give up. If you can be that 5% that really pushes through, comes out the other side, then you've immediately put yourself in this other category.
I have one quick question. Do Prod MBA people get a discount or?
Yeah, if you want. It's on delivery at the moment because of the nature of the world, which is I guess in Henry's words, a dip.
Maybe a question, Andy, on, sorry, I didn't actually answer one in the end. Ask one. What do you think are the key lessons that you've taken away? I think both, you know, we separate personal and professional, but ultimately, like, what do you as a person feel you've taken away from the experience?
For me, definitely like just working so closely with a customer, not as so much personal, but I think it's ultimately guided my career, because now Tucker kind of runs itself and I'm looking to maybe move back into work. And I think what I realized is, like, the job I was doing before, I was nowhere near the end user. I was nowhere near the customer. And that ultimately made me so miserable. It made me feel like I had no purpose in that role. And I think going forward, going through the experience of doing this, is that I love working directly with a customer and like speaking to a customer every day and going, what did you like? Did that work? Would you be more keen if we tried this? Like, iterations and experiments, to put it in proper products talk, is honestly the best thing. In terms of just general stuff, I think simplicity is always better than complexity. I think especially in food, a lot of people come into street food, for instance, and they're maybe ex-chefs and they come out with these wacky concepts and they're going to be really cool and they actually put it on the street. But in the end, people just want simple things. They just stick to what they know. And there's no point of like trying to make a burger with rogue ingredients. It's about making a burger that is commonly understood, maybe slightly different, but just better ingredients. And we focused on other things other than the burgers. Our strategy was making an Instagram that was really funny and weird and got on people's radar. And that catapulted us instead of the product, although the product was good. That's a given, it has to be good to get forward. But yeah, we just thought, be simple, be funny, focus on your customers, and the rest will follow.
Andy,
I have a question, sorry.
Yeah, we'll have this as the final question and then we'll move on, purely because that picture of the burger has made most of us hungry, I imagine.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, why didn't you go, I don't think you went to your local borough to the market, you know, that each borough has a market that you can kind of showcase your food and, you know, during the weekends. Did you go there, or you just shoot out to the street straight away to like big places like Shoreditch and all that kind of stuff, because they are more expensive than the local borough, and you actually can make more money in your local borough than that. So I just wanted to ask why, what was the decision behind that?
So at the start, you take anything you can get. It's so hard to get a pitch at a market or anywhere. Like honestly, just even the one that you see down the street in your local town is so hard to get onto because there's so many people in food that want to get that spot. And we just had to fight for a position. And luckily our butcher, who was on the street of this market, and gave us a shoe into this little one, which was so unknown. And it was dead most of the time we were there. It was just that we were like, right, I think our product's good. We'll keep testing on the customer. But for us to get recognized in a seriously congested market, which is burgers in a big city, we're going to have to do something else that's different. And we just started making these videos on our Instagram account, which got on the radar of so many people. And then that opened so many doors, and everything started, like the dominoes started falling for us. And yes, the Shoreditch places are, so the market, to be technical, the markets are good because they're lunchtime markets, you know, you get people working. But if you want loads of dough, you want to get like the evening markets where everyone's drunk and just wants to get food. So for us, Shoreditch is like, Shoreditch, which is in this night food market we were at, is where you make the money, because drunk men and women are coming up and be like, I just want a burger, and you sell. But you put alcohol and food, sales. It's a magic concept.
Wonderful. I think there's quite a lot of learnings. I know you said it was quite left field at the start. I think the only learning that maybe most of us don't have to take away on our digital products is find drunk people, although I have had an occasional Amazon purchase. And on that note,
also engage food influencers. They're very helpful. They'll get you recognized really quickly.
Sounds great.
Charm the pants off them. Anyway.
Andy, thank you ever so much for that. There's loads of learnings, and I'm sure we'll get some more from you in the future as well. But I'd like now to move on to Rob, who's come to speak to us with a short introduction to design thinking and design sprints. Rob, if you'd like to take it away.
Cool, thank you everybody. Andy as well, I loved your burgers. They looked so fantastic. I'm a massive burger fan, so you definitely got my attention. You should have had your social media handle at the end of it though.
Yes, at Tucker Burger. I'll link it afterwards. Thanks guys.
Perfect, cool. Welcome everybody. You're going to have a very, very brief introduction to design thinking today. Very brief, because it's only 15 minutes. So my name is Rob Hamblin. I am actually founder of Leap. Excuse me. And this is basically what Leap does for a living. And the reason I'm letting you read that now while I just talk over the top is because basically we help companies design better products using processes like design thinking or design sprints. And this is me sitting at a desk with a sprint book, cliche picture, yada da da. But this is normally how I run my workshops. So normally in person, window space, post-it notes, you name it, it's always there. And but recently, actually, it's obviously way different from that. So before Leap, actually, I was a product design director for AJ and Smart, where I ran some workshops for these companies, specifically design sprints. And actually, there's a lot of similarities with design sprints and design thinking, and I'll go into some of those later on, but basically the format is kind of quite similar. But you can see here it's very hands-on, and actually a lot of takeaways from the workshops from just people being there. But typically nowadays with the COVID, the dreaded C word, this is actually kind of how workshops are run these days with the fantastic product of Zoom that we all love. So a little brief history. I used to be creative director for IBM Studios, and actually this was my kind of first exposure to actually running design thinking workshops. So IBM used design thinking. And I don't know, I mean, maybe just a quick question. Has anybody heard of design thinking, or does anybody know what design thinking is? It's fine to, cool, we've got one. Cool. That's really great. I mean, this is great. This is because it's like an exposure kind of answer to it. So, but basically the straight answer is design thinking is a mindset on how to rapidly solve problems. And there's a number of ways in which you can go about doing this. And everybody will always say, it's design thinking. It always involves design doing, because, you know, hence the workshop pictures earlier. So it's typically an iterative process. So here you would have these kind of 5 kind of silos where you learn, you define, you ideate, you then create a prototype, and then you test it with actual users. But one of the most significant components of design thinking is that you actually learn from the people that are going to be using your product, the empathy part, yeah? And this is kind of one of the strongest components into kind of how you can change the way people actually innovate their products. So, you know, Andy, you know, when you were trying to work out your burgers, you were probably trying to work out, okay, who do we want to serve the burgers to? Like, who's going to be our demographics? And then maybe you might have asked a few questions about what people wanted in a burger as part of your kind of background research. So typically, you know, when it's when you embark upon a challenge or you know, like a new product, for example, typically there's a lot of uncertainty up front, and this is where you spend a lot of time kind of research, talking to those customers, talking to those end users, trying to find out exactly, you know, where the land lies. And then this illustration is kind of really, you know, the kind of path that you would typically take with regards to the amount of work and confusion and time that's taken up front, to then you filter out until you finally come to build a product where you actually have the innovation side of things. So here's another like diagram. I use this a lot because actually there's so many components of being a designer. So my background is design, and I have been designing products for like 20 years. So I'm really kind of focused on the human desirability side of this Venn diagram, because for me, this is like, you know, we're designing products for our customers, and, you know, they have to kind of really be able to you know, really use our products that we're designing for them. But there's 2 other components of the Venn, which is business viability and technical feasibility. And what this means is that most products that normally have the kind of the most success, they kind of encompass equally kind of these 3 components into like when they're creating these products. This is the innovation where the overlap is. This is what we call the sweet spot. So for you today, a little intro of where design thinking comes from. It comes from this guy here, basically this guy called David Kelly. He works at IDEO, and I'll show you more about him in a second. But basically, there's 2 ways to actually solve problems. And one is synthetic, and the other one is, I'm just trying to think, the other one, I've just lost it. Lost my train of thought. The door's just gone. So sorry. You have synthetic and you have analytical, okay? And basically, there are 2 different ways of how you can come at solving a problem. And basically, design thinking is actually a combination of doing both of these, yeah? So typically, you know, for example, if you take, you know, this guy here, who actually recognizes him, Thomas Edison, he basically found it more important to go through all these kind of solutions first. And for him, he had more learnings on the things that didn't work. He was then able to extrapolate the things that did work from that. And also Henry Ford, yeah, he actually spent a lot of time around the people and trying to kind of go around the problems rather than trying to solve them. So the secret of this so-called genius of learning and doing, experimenting and iterating is this guy. This is David Kelly. He's the guy I just dropped in earlier. And so design thinking, he is kind of like the godfather of it. He works for this company called IDEO. And basically he and this guy, Doug Dietz, he is a very strong believer of design thinking as well. And basically Doug Dietz is, he actually came up with the MRI scanner, and he worked on with the team to actually help people like get better by using this product, yeah. And what Doug didn't realize is that actually on the new scanner, he had all this time and like he put all his effort into kind of really kind of like making this scanner, this amazing contraption, so that it would like really help people get better or really help understand like where they needed the most medical care. He put all this efforts into like, you know, this machine that would kind of like, you know, look pretty cool, I guess. But, you know, he was more focused on, you know, just actually whether it worked or not. And it was able to give people these results. And basically, the problem was that actually children were terrified of this MRI scanner because, you know, you were asking them to go into this very claustrophobic space. Even like adults, they really struggled with it as well. And basically, it made the whole process slower. And this is where like the design thinking side of things is really relevant because, you know, he came at it from like this thing that's going to solve everybody's problems, but people were genuinely scared to get into this contraption because they felt like it was just going to, you know, either kill them or crush them, or it made these loud noises. People were just genuinely scared. And actually kids were super terrified as well. And, you know, he was really heartbroken because he'd made this product to help people, and yet people were actually scared to physically get in it. It was very loud, had loud sounds, and they thought that they might have to, you know, because of people were so scared to use the product, they thought that they were actually going to have to change the product and the way that it, you know, the way that it worked. And basically, Doug Dietz went back to his roots as, you know, this designer, this industrial designer of this product. And he went back into, okay, do you know what? We don't have to redesign the whole product. We just have to redesign the experience of this product. So this is kind of where, you know, you have the technical feasibility with his MRI scanner. This was like, you know, tick the box for that one because it absolutely kind of, you know, all the technology was modern and it was absolutely like spot on. And then you had the business viability because obviously, you know, hospitals were buying these MRI scanners because they wanted to, you know, understand where patients needed the most medical attention sooner rather than later, so that they could move patients through the hospital. But the human desirability for Doug was obviously massively failing. So this is why he went into the kind of the design thinking approach. And actually what he did was he just like spun the experience completely on his head. And basically the operators were retrained to give the kids this more like gamified experience through just literally wrapping these like amazing vinyls around the machine, so that you'd have these really young kids like waiting to go in, and they were basically told that they were going to have this kind of like this experience. But for example, in the picture that you see here, the game for the kids was that they had to lie really still so the pirates wouldn't see them, and then they would get sweets or they would get, you know, like treats or something afterwards for having this kind of, you know, being absolutely still so the scanner could do the work. And so that actually, you know, they could have more foot flow through the actual scanner itself. And so obviously, another thing that was really critical with this was that because kids were initially so scared to go into this contraption, they quite often had to be sedated. So actually it was costing hospitals a lot more money in anaesthetists to kind of actually administer all the sedations for the kids to actually be able to go through. So it was costing them a lot of money. And actually between after the actual exercise where they put the design thinking exercises and the vinyls actually on the machines, actually the sedations went down from 80% to 10%. So they were already kind of moving all these kids through, and these kids were more at ease about going through this experience. And because it was quicker and without the sedation process, the hospital could perform more operations in a day as well. So Doug's solution was now viable, and because it had reduced the hospital's resources and improved the logistics and the way that the MRI worked, it was now desirable. So it ticked all of these boxes with the human desirability, feasibility, and viability. So that was like the most quickest intro to design thinking I think I've ever done. So if you have questions, I'm happily answer some. But in essence, like that is your kind of your little sneak peek taster into design thinking.
I've heard of this before. Thank you for the talk, by the way. But I've never learned as much in 13 minutes as I have just done.
Thank you. In true sprint style, I had to kind of come in on time. I think Henry was also watching me on this, like thinking I was probably going to go over. So yeah, cool. No, thanks everybody. Hopefully not too, you know, outside of your kind of your typical work days, but yeah, in essence, yeah, it's a really important to, you know, for me actually designing products And for when I actually was at IBM as a creative director, the thought of actually all these kind of blue collar, white collar workers coming in, and consultants, for those of you that kind of want to slate them, they were coming into this kind of space where actually it was the mindset that they were just going to tackle this problem differently. And for me, that was like a massive win. So you would just get all these crazy guys in suits that would go, yeah, okay, cool. Like, now what are we going to do? So it meant that their minds were much more open to kind of coming up with new things.
Quick question from my side would be, by the way, there's a nice Q&A I did with Rob a couple of months ago on design sprints that I'll share on Slack. Maybe just like, if you could say, like, what is one small thing that product managers could use from design thinking on a day-to-day basis? Like one small framework or easy tool to use.
To put themselves in the shoes of the user or the customer. It's probably the best thing. And it will just help them just like step out of the shoes of their, their consultancy role, which most consultants are not worth, the money that they're paid for, let's be honest. But it would just enable them to just really think about like what it is they're doing. But it also gives them, I have this kind of strong belief that, as a designer, and I have been a consultant, but if you're building products, you have to really understand who you're building the product for. But equally, the business side of things is super important as well. Like, I won't hire designers if they have no business kind of acumen about how a change to a button is going to enhance like the monthly active users, for example. So they have to have that like really strong understanding. But for me, the empathy thing is really, really important, to really understand like what those pain points and what those challenges are up front before you actually start making a product change is really like significantly important to actually kickstarting a product.
Hey Rob, thanks so much for the presentation. That really resonated with me. I've definitely agree with a lot of your points in consulting and stuff. And equally, I was actually looking to go into this as a career after my burger little venture. I'd love to know what made you what made you launch your own business in this space? Were you frustrated with what you were doing before? Or did you just decide like, I can do this better? I've read that sprint book. Heck, let's have a go.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a designer, always have been. And for the last for the 3 years prior to me being in my own company or forming my own company, I was responsible for a process that enabled companies like Twitter to kind of enhance their product. But we were kind of really hands off on the design thing. So we got them out the starting blocks with regards to what their product vision could be. But there wasn't really an emphasis to kind of design then those products, So for me, because I'm a designer, I want to be able to have a bit more control. So I'll do the strategy piece, but equally want to be able to kind of like help mold what that product might look like as well. And just take a huge amount of pride in creating like some of the most amazing prototypes that you could imagine. And yeah, and also with my design thinking and design sprint experience, for me, the design sprint is really good, but it was really lacking on the empathy side of things. So for me, it enabled me to kind of create my own format of the sprint so that it would encompass things more like design thinking as well. So, and I'm constantly kind of tweaking the process. I never cut anything out, but I'm constantly tweaking it so that it encompasses things like design thinking and empathy intertwined. So yeah, kind of just to have a little bit more control and be able to kind of tailor products more for customers' needs as well, rather than having like a one hit wonder for everybody. So, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I have the skills to be able to customize it. So that's where I kind of get my jollies.
So cool. Do you feel like you kind of fall into that innovation consulting space, or is design thinking distinctly different from that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always, it falls well within, and I even describe Leap as a product design and innovation company as well. So, and I hate the innovation word. I really hate it, but you try thinking of a substitute word for it that describes what you do. It's kind of super hard. So that's my kind of description if I have to call it something in a more formal capacity. But yeah, it's more about just giving people the product vision, but really, really super quickly. Yeah. So.
Andy, thanks a lot for your question, and Rob, once again, thank you ever so much for your time this afternoon, this evening. I realise that we have all had the opportunity tonight to learn loads from each other, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you ever so much to everybody that has given up some of their time, not only to share some of their experiences, expertise and knowledge, but also as well sit for almost 2 hours and listen to all of us do this. Both sides are equally as important. Apologies, but also thank you to those talks that were submitted but not chosen. They're all going to be talks that we can repropose for our next Unconference. And thank you everyone collectively for making this just such a smashing first event. First event's sometimes the tricky one, not nearly quite as tricky as I thought it could have been. And then finally, I just really appreciate feedback. I'll send people a very quick format. I'd really love your feedback. It helps us at Prod MBA do the best that we possibly can for all of you. But I think that we've done everything that we intended to do this evening. So thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank
Adam,
you so much for organizing it.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really enjoyable.
Watch Andy's video as well. It's really funny. Watch the
Do.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Cheers,
Bye,
guys.
guys. Enjoy.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye, everyone.